Hello and welcome back to the iStorm channel. My name is Elfverson. I'm the creator of iStorm Women, and we are currently running a 16 Days of Activism video podcast series here on the channel in support of UN Women UK to raise funding for safe spaces now.
Public spaces need to be safe and inclusive for all now. A report by UN Women UK reveals how common sexual harassment is in the UK. 97% of women my age said they had experienced harassment. Your ideas to support us have already started making a change. At music festivals, with taxi companies, on public transport, in organisations and in online spaces. It's time for a change. Please support Safe Spaces now by donating to the cause or get involved. You can find the link next to this video. Thank you.
Today we are talking about the topic of body image, and with me I have 4 women who are going to share both their experience and their expertise and the work they do to lead women into a more positive view of their body image. So starting from the top of my screen, I'm going to say welcome first of all to Zoe Edwards. Hello.
Hi. So I work as a coach. I've worked mainly with women because I started out working specifically with body image, as that was I had a lot of personal experience with that. That has since expanded out into kind of, I'd say, aspects of self-image. So confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, all that sort of thing. And I've worked a lot with young people too, because they're presenting a lot of anxiety issues, especially around self-image. But my background had been a lot of anxiety around the way I looked from childhood, bullying, that sort of thing. And that had kind of developed until in my 20s, I was diagnosed with body dysmorphic disorder, which is like the extreme version of body image kind of, sort of very compulsive, obsessive kind of focusing. And I tried a lot of things and they didn't work. And then I came across an understanding that really helped me see how my mind worked and how it could be the solution to my problem as well as the source of it. And so now I share that gift. I share that gift with women and, well, people generally, but mostly it's women presenting, of course, with body image issues, although men suffer too. But I help them get beyond the stresses and pressures that they struggle with day to day and find more freedom of mind around image and how they're presenting in the world, how they're doing in the world.
Thank you so much. Brilliant work that you're doing and so important. Louisa Featherstone, Lou, in LuLand, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Such a great pleasure. I knew that we would have a colour splash into this darker topic, guaranteed, with you. Tell us a bit more about you, Lou.
Well, where to start with me? I'm a 51-year-old. No, I'm not. I'm 52. I'm a 52-year-old accidental influencer dedicated to empowering women to step into their confidence and seize their sexuality, particularly in middle age, to reset their mindset, their midlife mindset to positive, and just say, fuck it to getting older. Doesn't matter. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Life's for living. So that's what I do through a variety of ways on the internet. Strip off, run naked through the streets, or take my clothes off at the top of mountains, to styling, to keeping fit, to throwing events, pulling people together. I do a lot of clothes swaps, anything to connect women, and recently started a hike squad connecting like-minded hiking people in their local areas. So that's what I do for a living.
Which is all fabulous. And by the way, we're going to share all your links and details in the text next to this video if anyone both wants to reach out or connect somewhere else. Thank you, Lou. And Jess, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Me. It is both a pleasure and an honor to be here having this conversation. I am a sales program manager at the Financial Times, so I work with sales teams globally to drive large-scale initiatives and in turn generate more revenue. But with that, I also run Embrace Her on the side. And what that really focuses on is supporting women within their corporate careers, especially in male-dominated industries where I guess these stereotypes or expectations can be placed on us, and it can be quite challenging being in an overbearing environment where we have to really dig deep to find that inner confidence and self-belief. So I work closely with these women to really get to the core of who they are, the value that they bring, and really recognizing what they bring to the table to support them to go from stagnant in their career to soaring. So that is me in a nutshell. So I'm really excited to be here.
Well, fantastic. And we're so excited to have you. And last but not least, Lulu.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Me. I'm excited to be part of this conversation. It's such an important topic. So I'm Lulu. I have been a registered nurse for over 2 decades now, which is crazy to say. But in the last sort of 10, 12 years, I've been working more sort of on my own under the umbrella of the skin nurse. So I specialize in dermatology, so all types of skin issues and also cosmetic stuff. So I do a little bit of Botox and that kind of thing. But my business is all about helping people to feel good. So I don't use these injectables and things to make people look different. I just want people to look healthy and well. And that's usually what people want as well, luckily. So I don't, do frozen faces or, big lips. And I also don't treat under 30s. And since having that new policy, many years ago, actually, it's made such a big difference to the work I do and the people I attract and how I, run my whole business. And I look at my clients in a really holistic way. So, often talking about, if they're having injectables, we'll talk about skin and health and mental well-being and all of this stuff, because I think it's really important. And there's so many different tools we can, pull in and use to help us feel better. And that's what I think it's all about.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is although a certain darkness of the topic, it's very exciting and so important to talk about. So let's get chatting. I wanted to establish first what you see as what is body image. What do we need? First of all, what do we like? What's the idea of body image to you from in a general respect? Zoe, what do you think what do we think of when we say body image in general?
So I think obviously there's a healthier version and there's a spectrum, right? We can have sort of body hatred, and we can have body acceptance, we can have body love. But generally speaking, it's a preoccupation with how we look. Like, this is like the place we go to. And if we're talking about body image in a negative sense, which we are embracing today, we're kind of going to look at how we can, see that and find solutions for it. But it's just being preoccupied with how we look, but really also a strong concern about how other people see us. So we basically have ourselves on our mind all the time. Like, we're kind of thinking about ourselves and how we're measuring up. So you get into comparison. Body image, there's a lot of comparison. And when we compare ourselves, we generally find ourselves lacking. And I think as human beings, we just get a bit lost when we think something's missing. So it's just a cycle that goes round and round. It's like preoccupation, comparison, and feeding that. For me, that, and then there are more extreme versions when you get into really difficult habits, and that can lead to, eating disorders and all kinds of things, which was where I found myself. But yeah, that's how I see it generally.
I think you wrapped it up that quite well, and I can see the other participants nodding. Would you like to add anything to that, Lou?
I mean, as someone who's on the internet constantly, obviously body image is front and center of everything. As a parent of a teenager, watching him grow up, really struggling to measure up to everything you see in the, in online is terrifying, really. To think what they grow up seeing is just mind-blowing, really. I mean, I was watching an amusing meme the other day, and they were talking, and it was, no wonder we're all fucked up if we grew up in the 80s. And they were showing clips of interviews with different stars at the time. They were talking about Britney Spears' breasts on a chat show on the sofa, the conversation. It's just wild to me. But that's why, for me, it's so important to just be out there with all my bits and keep the conversation going. It's, you know, people find it shocking, a middle-aged woman, you know, dancing naked at the top of a mountain, but actually it's incredibly powerful, because the permission I give myself to feel free, for me, then trickles down to everybody else. I give people permission to just be themselves, and it doesn't matter. But that's incredibly hard when you're an insecure 13-year-old girl and you think everybody's skinny and taller. And I do see some changes, though, I think, recently. What about you guys? I do see some changes, and, you know, there's, you know, a lot, not enough, but at least some brands are making an effort to use plus size models more. And, you know, we're starting to see it on the catwalk a little bit more, not enough. But yeah, the measuring sticks are, mind-blowing for the young ones. I mean, it's mind-blowing for us.
I completely agree with that, Lou. For me specifically, growing up when I was, you know, 13, 14, 15, everything across Instagram and social media was wafer thin, bikini models, influencers on the rise. And I think it's really hard when you're that age to kind of be surrounded by that constantly and not compare yourself. I definitely have to say, over the last, you know, maybe 3 years, there has been quite a shift in the industry, which is so positive to see. But being surrounded by it constantly, it's just really hard not to compare yourself, and you're constantly trying to, I guess, weigh your value and your self-image up against these other women who, you know, are likely just showing the highlights of their life, but we don't recognize that in the moment, and we start to think that we're inadequate. So I think social media is a beautiful place for connection, and I love social media, but there's also ways that it can fuel negative thoughts and self-image. So it's really about finding that good balance. And yeah.
It's interesting, funny. Sorry to interrupt, but I was watching the Robbie Williams documentary, and because I grew up when I was in my sort of teens, early 20s, there was no social media. But I was watching the Robbie Williams documentary, and he dated Jerry Halliwell, and there was a part of the documentary where the paparazzi were following them and kept turning up because they were hacking Robbie's phone. But they had some really intimate pictures of Jerry. And as I was watching the video, I remember seeing it in Heat magazine, and I cut it out, and it was in a scrapbook because that's how skinny I wanted to be. And I saw it on the I was like, oh my God, that's the video footage of the picture that I saw in Heat magazine. And I wanted to be that skinny, and this was last Saturday. And I was like, oh,
that was literally Pinterest at the time. You pinned it on your wall.
Literally cut it out and stuck it in. And I went, oh, I remember I was suddenly just really hungry. But like, it was mad, sort of like proper physical reaction to seeing that picture, because I wanted to be that thin. I mean, anyway, sorry, do carry on.
No, don't apologize. It's a conversation, so we're all open for all your comments. This is why we're here. But Lou, I wanted to just check in with you, Lulu, both about teenage and also because you've got a daughter, don't you, a teen?
Yeah. So I'm like Lou, I've got a teenager at home, and so I'm seeing, you know, her reactions to social media and, you know, things she's seeing online, and they're so easily influenced as teens, and it's frightening because, you know, even though we've got age and sort of wisdom on our side a bit more, and it still affects us, it really worries me, you know, for the teens, you know, and the filters and the touching up of celebrities and everything, how they really believe that that's reality, and it's just so untrue. So it's frightening, but it's so important that we're following, you know, positive channels and, you know, realistic things like, you know, showing all types of bodies and all types of ages, and, you know, the variety of life and real life, not just these ideals of crazy perfection, because it's just not true.
Can I say how happy I was to hear that you don't treat anybody who's under 30? That's so amazing to me. Thank you for doing that. I absolutely do what you got to do. Bird's got to do what she's got to do. But I worry that people want to start it so young. I'm like, give yourself a chance. You don't even know what you look like. At least
I know, and that's exactly why I started it, because I found myself counselling young girls that were coming to me, you know, telling them how beautiful they were, and, you know, and I didn't want to be doing anything to their faces, and also they all want to try and look the same, and I think that's really sad, and we really need to be, you know, embracing our individuality and all of that stuff. And so even if, you know, I know half the girls that don't come to me, or boys, they'll go somewhere else. But actually, I just hope that they will think twice, or maybe just delay it a little bit and think about it a little bit more. But yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done for my business, because it makes me feel like I'm doing a good job now. Like before, I always felt a bit, something wasn't quite right about the work I was doing. And yeah, my daughter probably had a massive impact on me making that decision as well, because I didn't want her to see what I was doing. I was hiding my Instagram from her and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's
important. Yeah,
it is.
I want to dive in even further into the negative effects just briefly. Zoe, are you happy to tell us a bit more about what you've seen or experienced from your perspective?
Sure. I mean, it's really interesting talking about the kind of cosmetic surgery, or, you know, the things we can do that we think are going to make us feel better about ourselves. Because definitely for me, I was obsessed with getting things changed. I just used to think about it all the time. But, you know, I think it's so helpful to point out to people that, you know, this perspective, this perception rather, of how we look. And for me, you know, it wasn't just my body. I mean, it might be one day, but it could be some other part of maybe my face, you know, some part of my face another day. But that's fluid, you know, it's changing all the time. And it tends to change with our mood. You know, in a low mood, everything we look at looks pretty crappy. You know, we're going to find fault with everything. I mean, personally, with our image, or in our relationships, in our jobs, whatever. And it's just helpful to see that, you know, on a bad day, we can think we need a facelift or whatever it might be, or we need to go on a really strict diet. But then on another day, when we have less of ourselves on our mind, you know, we're going to not see that anymore. It's just going to move around. Definitely when I was looking at getting work done because I thought I needed to have it done. And this is when I was in my 20s. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to have things done. So, you know, that was a good thing. But I would be obsessed with it. And then, you know, I wouldn't even notice that the obsession with that part of me changed and shifted to another part of me. So it just it was so fluid, and seeing that had me catch on to it being a lot about the way I was looking, not what I was looking at. But for me, the negative impact of this absolute obsession with how I looked and how I was showing up in the world and what people thought of the way I looked led to all kinds of really, really difficult, you know, behaviors, whether it was, you know, eating, disordered eating. I definitely starved myself over and over and over again. I would, you know, my relationships, I went into, because I had all of my self-worth was attached to the way I looked. So I found myself because it was very low, and because I didn't feel lovable or, you know, good enough, something was wrong with me. I would, you know, be in abusive relationship after abusive relationship, and I allowed really, really abusive behavior to happen. It was a kind of self-harming through relationships, and in all the ways. And for me at that time, you know, the way with my state of mind, cosmetic surgery would have been another form of that, because it wouldn't have got to the problem. Which is not to say that people can't have things, you know, have things done that help them feel fresher, feel good about themselves. But for me, with my state of mind, it was not the place to look, and it was just another place that I fixated. So it could be on, you know, dieting or cosmetic surgery or, you know, abusive relationships. And that was how they were the really negative impacts that I was experiencing. And that was throughout my 20s, really, even into my 30s, before I kind of caught on to what I was up to, really, psychologically.
And you're doing work for other women now. I'm gonna jump to Jess. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, thanks, me. So I guess for myself, when it comes to body image, I struggled with a severe eating disorder when I was maybe in my late teens, early 20s. And I think whilst the core driver of that initially wasn't necessarily around what I look, I felt like I had this foundation of this expectation of what I should look like. And I used my body as an outlet because I didn't know how to control my emotions or how to deal with anything that was going on around me. And so off the back of that, when things went bad, I felt like I couldn't control the situation, but what I could do is try to control how I look. And so I would almost lash out on myself, which I feel like I really resonate with what Zoe was saying around, you know, it's a form of self-harm on your body. Because when I was going through these emotional states, I felt like, well, I can't do anything else about this right now. So I'm just going to not eat, because at least then I can control the way that I look and how people perceive me. And so that led down quite a dark path for me. And as that progressed, I really found that I had lied so much to the people who cared about me, who tried to support me, that I just carried so much guilt and shame, and I was so embarrassed. And I felt like it was just probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with. And I felt so alone, and I really didn't know how to deal with it. And because I already struggled to deal with my emotions, it was almost like this constant cycle of lashing out on myself, which I think then deeply connects to my self-belief and my self-confidence and how adequate I feel. And whilst when I reflect now, I don't necessarily believe that the societal expectations or what I was seeing around me was the core driver. I think the core driver was something much deeper inside me that I didn't know how to handle. And then the only thing I did know what to do with was what I saw around me constantly. And so I think that's what I kind of lent on. So I think that's where the danger really lies, is because sometimes there's actually something much deeper going on inside you. And if you don't know how to handle that, or you don't feel like you have the support, then we lean on the things that we do know how to do, which is, you know, the constant Facebook ads of lose 5 kilos in 2 weeks, or check out this new diet, you'll get your bikini body, and all of that kind of stuff that's constantly in your face. So I think we just go to the things that are so accessible when we don't know how to deal with what's truly going on at a core level, I suppose.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Lou, in LuLand, I know that you do some amazing inspirational work with a lot of women. What are the darker sides that you've seen women come out of, and how are you influenced them, or what has the transition been?
Watching so many women from so many backgrounds all over the world, all getting in their own way, just stopping themselves, you know, taking care of themselves, putting everybody else first in their lives. Just life so busy, not being able to sort of allow themselves the space to get to what is it in me that's driving, you know, this, to what Jess was saying. It's just, it comes back to self, isn't it? It comes back to that old cliche of putting on the face mask first before you can help anybody else. And I think by making myself my mission, by making myself vulnerable and sharing my journey and my pains, is that, you know, as a really ordinary person, you know, I can inspire so many people. But the resonating message I get from people who follow me is, you give me permission. You know, you give me, sometimes for some women, that's just simply getting out of bed in the morning. Others, it's going to the gym. Others, it's leaving their husband. Others, it's looking at themselves in the mirror or touching themselves for the first time, because we're so steeped in shame and sexual shame. And that all stems back to our shame around our bodies. You know, it's perpetuated from school for us all, you know. But I don't know, I feel like I work with so many people who are out there trying to drive conversations and you know, and keeping it real, and, you know, helping people sort of face their dark bits. But the secretive shame that we all carry around our bodies, the more we talk about it and the more we push the agenda and make it a topic of conversation, you know, the more we can help people, hopefully, which is what we're doing now, trying to be activists about, you know, what we believe in, and taking our pain and our experiences to try and help others so they don't struggle.
Yeah, you mentioned permission, and I think that is really a key word in this, isn't it? And I think that a lot of women just feel they need to have permission from someone, and I don't quite know who that is, but we've always had this burden through generations and generations and centuries and forever that we need to have someone's permission to do things or to be things. And of course, that's kind of the foundation of what we're all working with here, as you say, is to try and liberate women from that and empower women. Lulu, how do you feel about this permission, giving permission to women to just be what they are?
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think people are hoping to get permission and they just need a little bit of a push to be able to, make choices and do things, or a big elbow.
Lou is putting her elbow both up there. It's a big, big push.
Yeah, to do things, because I see, women all the time, missing opportunities, or not having fun, or not wearing what they want to wear because they're too worried about their body or what they're going to look like or what other people will think. But yeah, when you've got someone kind of, being your cheerleader, it does give you a bit of permission, doesn't it? I mean, I'm completely guilty of, these things as well. I've always had sort of body issues, and I know for sure that I avoid going down the dating route because I always think, oh, not quite yet. Maybe next year, maybe when I've dropped a dress size or something, then I'll do that. And I see it all around me, and it's, we're just wasting our lives, and it's such a shame because we shouldn't be doing it. We should be living for the moment. We're all lucky to be here and all that stuff. But yeah, it's really difficult. But we all need more cheerleaders around us. And I think that's why community and talking and all that stuff's so important.
Do you feel that some women actually kind of want your permission before they go ahead with Botox, for example?
Yeah, I think they do. And I have to be obviously very careful with that because I don't ever want to. The problem from a business perspective, I'm pretty rubbish at this stuff because normally I'll say, oh, you don't need that, you don't need this, you don't need that. But yeah, obviously from a professional perspective, they want my permission or they want my advice on what I think would work well for them, that kind of thing. Which, I am obviously very honest with them and manage their expectations because that's really important as well. But I'm very open and clear about how I would never want them to look different or look weird or anything like that. I don't want them to be the person that looks a bit strange at the party. I want them to be looking happy and well and feel confident. It's more about how they feel. So yeah, I do. I think, all these little things can help us a little bit, but ultimately it comes down to how we feel inside. So yeah, there's many, many tools out there that we can use and reach on for those things.
So talk to us a bit more about tools and permission.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I don't think it's so much, well, for me personally, like it wasn't, I would see other people being very body positive and that didn't have any impact on me. I think I just compare myself and think, wow, they're so confident. Wow. But it wasn't going to get me into, a bikini or whatever it might be, I wasn't going to do those things. I didn't have the foundational kind of piece that allowed me to feel comfortable with that. Even if other people were saying, go for it, for me, where I was, which was pretty low. But I suppose the hope for me is in that, it's when we understand where we're being blocked. And as Jess said, it's not, we can blame social media or we can look at other people that we're comparing ourselves to and feel that we're not measuring up. But ultimately, when we recognize that actually it's what we're thinking, it's not our bodies, it's not a particular part of us, right? It's what we think about that body. It's what we think about that part of us that's stopping us. Like it's just a body, it's neutral, but it's the thinking that we project, onto that has us kind of spiral and feel, well, good or bad, and so I think the hope is that when you can see that being consumed, like having a lot of yourself on your mind, being consumed with self-evaluation, thinking about yourself all the time, and that can be good or bad. I mean, like just having a lot of yourself on your mind sets yourself up for, it's quite a difficult place to come from. You're gonna, like, if it's negative, which a lot of the time it is, that internal voice, you are what you see, you see what you are, rather, you're projecting that constantly. So it's like, for example, somebody I'm thinking of a client, she popped into my head when we were talking, and she was a young woman and we've never really talked about body image. We talked about, she was self-harming, she had eating disorders, she was going through a lot. Never really talked, no, it wasn't eating actually, it was more OCD. And she hadn't really talked about her body image, but she came back after a weekend away and she said to me, I don't know what happened because we've never talked about how I feel about my body. We've never talked about that. And she said, yeah, at the weekend, I went out I went to the beach with my friends. Normally I'd cover up completely. I wouldn't let anyone take photos of me. I wore a bikini. I was running around on the beach. There were photos all day and I felt fabulous. And she said, but what happened? Because we never talked about my body image. We've never spoken about that. In kind of seeing where she had so much of herself on her mind all the time, and in dropping that, in kind of like coming to a clearer, calmer state of mind, like those habits and patterns, whatever they are, however they manifest, maybe in this case in body image, they kind of fall away. And I guess that's a space that I point people to, where, you know, they haven't got this constant measuring up, you know, they haven't got this constant evaluation going on. And I think that's the hope, that we all have it within us. It's not out here. You know, it's helpful to have wonderful cheerleaders. It's helpful to have people saying, you know, talking about this stuff. And the conversation is brilliant because it wasn't around when we were younger. And it's so helpful. But the power, you know, the power to shift this is within us. It's not out here. You know, forget what social media is up to. Yeah, it's impactful, but it's not the thing. It's not the thing that's creating the issue. That's kind of where I see the hope of it, that we all carry the seed of that within ourselves. It's just seeing it.
Brilliant. LuinLuland, how can we turn body image into something positive?
I mean, it's got to start, isn't it, with just making it normal to see people who are plus sizes or different sizes or have different color faces, or seeing yourself represented in books, in school, in TV shows, in... Did you watch My Mum, Your Dad? Did any of you watch that?
I loved that. I loved it.
Cool.
It was so moving.
It was so moving, but it felt so overwhelming to see a bunch of middle-aged people. Like, that shouldn't, I mean, we see them all the time. They're on soap operas and in dramas and stuff, but to see the reality TV show with middle-aged people being vulnerable and men being vulnerable as much as the women, and learning from each other and supporting each other, it was so powerful. They did that so well. But even I was like, wow, it's really special to see middle-aged people being normal. So you forget how unnormal lots of what we see and what we take in every day is, you know. But just holding each other up, you know, making it, I try to encourage everyone to just tell people they have a nice outfit, because the joy that it brings people, if you say, I like your outfit, as you pass by, even make a sweatshirt to try and encourage people to do it. But the best thing about that is the little campaign that I run is it's the people telling people that they like their outfit that enjoy it almost. They were like, it made their day, it made their day. But to consciously go out and do that has such, like, we can work in our corners and we're all doing our, you know, we're doing good work in our own ways, and it's just keep doing that and how, you know, just keep driving it out there. And also, you know, on a personal level, for people who are listening, how you model to your children. Check your bloody language, you know. Think what you're saying around little ears. They hear everything you say, every single thing. Check what they're watching on the TV. Monitor their damn social media. My poor son, I took his phone off him till he was 17 years old, 10 p.m. every night, handed it. He hated me. Don't care. He had good night's sleep. I still believe to this day, he does not, but I do. I still believe that him restricting that, and the late, I was like, nothing good can come after 10 o'clock with you and a phone. You don't need to be doing anything. Give it to me.
You're so right. You're so right.
But just check yourselves around the youth, you know.
You're driving out there. You have to tell us just briefly, Lou, what you have been doing with your bus.
So I bought a vintage RV bus in the States and drove around touring. It's the self-love revolution, just trying to encourage women.
What type of bus and what did you do? What does it now look like?
It's a Bluebird Wonderlodge from 1983, but she's green and pink leopard print with the self-love revolution down the side. So
and then you drove around the US.
I drove around the US with women coming knocking at the door. You know, I would pull into an RV park and within an hour, there would be a woman in need at the door. She would simply open my Instagram, because I had a QR code on the back of the bus. People could zap through and see what I was doing on this tour. I was throwing events as I went, preaching self-love and confidence, handing out vibrators to women, cans of gin and tonic for my sponsors, raising awareness around period.org, and period poverty. But people would look at my Instagram and just through that feel able to come and knock at my door and ask for help. That's how, you know, and I do this amazing permission giving workshop where just by allowing people to write down their permission and then I share them then with a group. And one woman's permission to herself then becomes every woman in the room's permission. And then theirs in turn becomes everybody's permission. So it's as simple as the choices you can make in a day can impact so many people. You don't have to have loads of followers to do that. You can do that with the way you treat people in the store, you know, things like that.
Love it. And of course, this is a golden opportunity for me to plug our event on the 13th of December in Brighton for the Speak Up Woman live event, where Lou is going to be the keynote speaker and moderate our panel. So we look forward to that. On the 13th of December, we're going to see Lou live in Brighton. What's next for you, Lou? Yeah. What's next for you? How can people reach you? Tell us that Instagram of yours.
My Instagram is LuinLuland. Come to me. You never know what you're going to get. I will warn you. One day I'm crying and eating a chocolate eclair, and another day I could be climbing a mountain naked. So you have been warned, but you're very welcome.
Fantastic. Jess, do you want to add anything more to the conversation before you share how we can meet you online?
I think more so just around really highlighting the importance of digging deeper within yourself. I know we've already touched on it, but I think it's something that I'm really passionate about. Is so often we lean on external factors when really there's a massive opportunity for us to look inward. And I think that's really the best step forward and the first step we should always take. So I would definitely just want to echo that. To then move into how you can contact me or get in touch or my work. I guess for me, because I have almost grown up in the corporate space in male-dominated teams, where not only is that a challenge in itself in terms of egos, personalities, all of that kind of stuff, but also in the way that you look, how you show up to work, what you dress in, how you color your hair. I am covered in tattoos. And so being judged on that in the corporate space is also like a challenge. So a lot of what I do focuses on supporting women to really lean into their authenticity, irrespective of how you look, how you color your hair, your piercings, whatever you want to do. That doesn't dictate your abilities as a woman in your career. And so my focus is really in that space to enable careers to soar so that you can really demonstrate your abilities with confidence. And I do a lot of that through Embrace Her, which is embraceher.co on Instagram. But I'll drop the link for anyone who wants to chat, but doors always open.
Well, I just wrote that down.
Hello. Wonderful. We are sharing all these links in the text next to this video. And Lulu, positive body image for the future. What can we do to just
well, with my nurse's hat on, I think and also from sort of personal experience, I think going back to basics as well, you know, doing some exercise, getting outside, getting into the fresh air, you know, but making these, you know, filling your own cup with these things first before you start trying to having to do everything for everyone else, because we're all so busy. But yeah, I think, and also like mindfulness, meditation's made a massive difference to me. And I think when we do fill our cup a bit more, we feel a bit more positive about our bodies and our images, and then we're able to make better choices, more positive choices for ourselves. So yeah, that would be my last bit of advice.
I love that you mentioned the outdoors, and I know Lou in LuLand you also do the hike squad. I think it's so important to just get out, get away from the computer and indoors into nature.
Definitely.
And that spare half an hour that you have.
Yes.
Make it a priority, please.
Yes.
Yeah, really important.
Yeah. Zoe, any positive advice?
Yeah, look, I want to say that you know, getting hooked on getting caught up on our image and how things look is a place that it's so easy for us to go to, right? And we're human. And so often when we think, oh, I've got a body image problem, I need to fix it, I need to, get rid of it. That's just not really a very human, kind of realistic human expectation, because it's fluid, and our perception is fluid depending on our mood, and our mood goes up and down all day long. So, just let yourself off the hook a bit, like don't, recognize that when, if you're in a low mood, if you're tired, if you're just like, you're feeling crappy, then your thinking is really not to be trusted, right? Definitely do not go and stand in front of a mirror naked in a low mood, because you're just going to see all the things that, you're going to look for evidence as to why there's a problem. And there really isn't. It's only as much of a problem as you think it is. And in a low mood, you're going to think there's a lot of problems. So really it's just catching on to noticing when you've got yourself on your mind, and look away, and just be kind to yourself, and even speaking, more kindly to yourself, just to recognize that you're doing that thing again, you're beating yourself up again. And even scientifically it's proven, medically proven, that even speaking kindly to yourself reduces inflammation in the body, and that can't be a bad thing. So it's just kind of like just being a bit kinder to yourself about like where your mood is, noticing it, and maybe just don't pin it all on body image. And that is going to be fluid. It's going to change just, day by day. And as we age, there's always going to be another thing, but it's a fluid, and it's a fluid place that we can be with and not have a lot of evaluation about, not just a lot of judgment on. And it's just noticing when we're up to that, and we'll feel crap the more we do it. And that will be a really good signal to like back off from your thinking, right? Wait till you're in a better mood. And yeah, so it's always changing, but the less we have of us on our minds, the better we tend to do, the better we navigate the world.
And this is so wonderful. We've talked about social media, we've talked about teens, we talked about 52 plus, we talked about corporates. It's all, in the end, it boils down to the individual, doesn't it? And we're all individual. We who are here now are women all, but it's about boys and men as well. But we got to respect ourselves, have the freedom, get the permission, stop being so inside our minds. And just take that step forward to be what you want to be. Tattoos, whatever it means to you, tattoos or lashes, but don't go change your image because you think that's what you got to do, but because that's what you want to be about, or that's what you are about. Thank you so much, everyone. Zoe, how can we find you if anyone wants to get into?
I don't actually have much presence online, so my business is very much referral and invitation. So I really like conversations, but in a very non-pressure way. If somebody wants to contact me, they can send me an email. I'll give you my email address. And it's just always good to talk and see where there might be possible to help.
I love this chat. It was fantastic. Thank you so much for all your advice, for sharing, for being so open, so generous. And for anyone watching this, if you do want to get in contact with any of these fantastic women, just have a look at the text and the links under the video. And we look forward to seeing you in our next video podcast. So see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
Don't forget to donate to Safe Spaces now, link next to the video.